Hi guys, how's going? My name is Julio. Welcome to my YouTube channel. This video is part of a series of videos where I talk about situations and times in my life where I feel that I've learned something valuable both as a human and as an artist. In this video, I want to talk about the legendary guitar player and teacher Mick Goodrick. Now, there are a lot of videos on YouTube that came out in the past few years about what Mick was all about, which is basically having this almost mystical journey into guitar, jazz, learning in depth the guitar instrument, almost like you are getting ready to become a Jedi in Star Wars. And I have to say that Nick has been always on my radar since I was a teenager because of his work with the Gary Burton Quartet and also because of his aura, his legendary figure of being this hermit, this outsider in the music world, which is all about learning all the possibilities of the guitar instrument, but not in a like a egotistical way. We're not talking about a shredder. We're not talking about somebody that is all about their ego or showcasing crazy technical skills. Mick was almost a mystical seeker, like somebody that will really dive into a specific topic like chord progressions or how many scales and how many different combinations you can get from one guitar string, and then just get obsessed about it for like 10 years, 20 years. And I remember at the time, I have his book, The Advanced Guitarist, which still is an incredible book, especially because of some of the concepts that are covered in that book. And he was introducing the Almanac of Chords. And the Almanac of Chords was this insane collection of combinations and permutations of chords, almost like a Rosetta Stone of the language of chords and music. And the way Mick was teaching those concepts was, to me, shocking. Mostly because he was approaching the whole guitar from a completely different point than any other guitar teacher at the time, at least most of them. He was seeing the guitar as an instrument that doesn't have to be filtered through the eyes of a guitar player, which means that you could be playing the guitar thinking like a trumpet player or like a piano player without limiting yourself to the actual world of the six strings. And I started to take lessons with Mick, which I believe they were like 30 or 45 minutes at a time, after sending him a tape, which was a very similar process to the process that Charlie Benakos was doing at the time. And I'm going to have a whole different video about my experience with Charlie Benakos. But basically, um, both gurus, they have their particular approach about teaching the instrument. So Charlie was more a composer and a musician, a writer, sort of a Rick Rubin, if you will, of the guitar teaching. Mick Goodrick was more sort of like taking you into a journey, and the journey could be related to the jazz guitar, but could also be related on making you a better guitar player. And by making you a better guitar player, you will look into what are your weaknesses in whatever you either didn't know you had to work on or whatever you thought you already knew about, but you didn't really get the right perspective. And by saying so, I remember that the first time that I met him, I went to his office, which was at one of the corner of Massachusetts Avenue, about like 10 minutes, maybe 8 minutes walk from the Berklee College of Music building on Massachusetts Avenue, and I walked on the second floor of this building. Another great guitar teacher, Mark White, had one of his rooms in the same building. And Mick was sitting at his desk in this room, and he had an inflatable guitar shaped like Eddie Van Halen's guitar, which was hilarious. And at the time, he was playing one of these headless electric guitars. And he said to me, like, the first thing that you really need to focus on is to play more using one string. And he used to call this the Uniitar concept, which I kind of like seen earlier, like learning about the Ravi Shankar music and the fact that when you play a sitar or a sitar, you focus on playing one line. It's like on one line, so you're not playing vertically, but you're playing horizontally. So, and a lot of guitar players at Berklee, they had this like a Joe Pass in the box approach. So they were focusing on playing vertically in a box. Especially the guys that they were, learning all the different licks and patterns from blues, or even for like, stuff like speed metal, neoclassical rock. I remember Joe Stamp. I remember a lot of like great guitar players, but they were teaching you guitar. With Mick, it was different because for him it was about exploring a concept, at least in my experience with him, and then literally go and do a deep dive in that concept. And then deep dive would be spending like a month or 2 months or even more practicing anything that you have learned with the standard approach, like scales, for example, or chords, and then literally spread that chord on a one string and developing this extremely musical arpeggios and phrases, and then listening to a lot of woodwind and brass players, including pauses and breaks and breaths, and making everything extremely vocal. And all this was, stuff that I learned from Mick throughout the time. And unfortunately, I didn't got enough time with him because I remember I took like something like 8 lessons, and then I stopped. Like that was the end for me. Berklee was gone, and I finished Berklee. Then I played with different bands, and then I headed to Denmark actually after that. So, but just by being exposed to Mick, and I went to see him playing in Boston. I even went with him at the Prudential Center in Boston. Like he liked to go to this place. I think it was a sushi bar, but I remember at the time he was always wearing sunglasses. It was such a character. It was and full of wisdom. And very very interesting individual, particularly focused and obsessed about details. So what I learned from my experience with Mick is passion is a very rare characteristic of a true artist. Being passionate and obsessed about the craft is a unique and essential characteristic of a great artist. And it's not a meter of success in any way, whatever you mean with success, but it's definitely a meter of how passionate and how much you are invested in really exploring all the different aspects of a particular form of art, in this case, music and guitar playing. But what I've learned with Mick was not only about guitar. I've learned concepts that I still use when I play bass guitar or upright bass. I still think about the experience of sitting right in front of him and hearing his calm and focused voice, going over certain concepts and trying to find the right angle to allow me to really grasp the proper side of something that might sound extremely abstract or very technical, and something that will really bore the shit out of any musician, especially nowadays with the short attention span that we all have, and finding a very practical application. And I remember also how excited in his own way he was about the almanac of chords, and going and exploring this really almost archaeological concepts of getting this pattern of combinations and finding interesting ways and putting your fingers on a fretboard to get this chords that, for at least at the time, 90% of the guitar players will not even realize how to, you know, put the chords together and get that particular combination of sounds and emotions too. So if you're not familiar with Mick Goodrick, I strongly suggest you to at least check The Advanced Guitarist. I think that's the name of the book. It's the most popular book by Mick Goodrick. And that book is not just for guitar players, by the way. It's for any musician should take a read to that book, should check that book, even if you're not willing to do the exercises. And if you are a guitar player, you definitely need to listen to Mick Goodrick, especially the early work with like the likes of Gary Burton, but also the duets with Pat Metheny. He did so much stuff, and it's just incredible. I remember witnessing him playing with Carla Bley and the Liberation Orchestra, which he had like Joe Lovano and Charlie Hayden. I mean, and then Bill Stewart on drums. I mean, like, what an incredible ensemble of talent, like just pure art. And Mick was there just providing this subtle guitar, almost arpeggios, almost harp sounds in the background, being this enigmatic figure, and that he was there, and you could hear his sound, and the amount of respect that he had for music was incredible. Play the notes that are necessary for the music to shine, for the artists to express themselves. Do not obstruct or diverge the attention of the listener to your ego. Keep it to the message, keep it to the music. I mean, how profound is that teaching? Especially nowadays, where we're constantly bombarded and overloaded with a bunch of shit, literally, at least most of the times. So, yeah, Mick, we all miss you. And I'm sure there's people that had the opportunity of being in your presence for far longer than the opportunity that I had. But in the few times that I had the amazing gift of being in your presence, I've learned so much. If you want to see more videos like this and learn more about my life experiences and my stories, and obviously check the behind the scenes of projects that I'm involved with, or my upcoming album, if you're watching this video in 2025, the album is The Willow Doesn't Weep, contemporary blues album with an incredible team of artists. And just make sure to follow me or subscribe to my channel here on YouTube. See you soon. Ciao for now.